So I'm gonna go in a bit of a different direction today. I've decided that what I most want to talk about is the idea of grape varieties. The every I've come across a lot of people who just sit there and go, "This one wine is perfect. It's the only thing I ever want to drink." I understand liking something. Totally get it. To say something is inferior because it's not that bothers me a lot. I just it's it's like people who get super gung ho about the new iPhone, let's say, or something along those lines. You're sitting there and you're like, "Oh, this is the pinnacle of everything, and everything else sucks because of it." No, it's a different product. It's made for a different market. It's made for a different person. It's just not geared. Those other things are just not yours. They're not geared for you. The same thing can be said about wine. A lot of people do this single varietal versus blends argument all the time, and you've got people who sit there and they just rant and rant and rant about how, oh, as a prime example, Cabernet Sauvignon is the best, and Cabernet Franc is its little brother that's just used for blends, which is the only real reason the grape exists. That doesn't make any sense. The grape exists because of evolution, and we made the wine because we liked it. It doesn't necessarily have anything to do with anything else. If you don't like that wine, don't drink that wine. It's that simple. But you shouldn't see specifically blends as inferior to single varietals, and you shouldn't see single varietals as inferior to blends, because a lot of people talk about this that dichotomy, right? You see that a lot of people talk about the purity of a single varietal. You can see where it lacks things. You can see how it could possibly not be considered an epic perfect wine because it's got that slight flaw to it. Simple example, and we're going back to Cabernet Sauvignon again for some strange reason. And I think that's simply because it's an easy one to talk about because a lot of people have experience with it. When you get Cab that doesn't quite ripen all the way, you get this distinct green bell pepper flavor, and it's a characteristic that is always associated with unripe Cabernet Sauvignon, sometimes Cabernet Franc as well, but that translates over into the wine. So if you're tasting a wine that has this character to it, you're tasting a wine that's not necessarily from completely mature grapes. And hmm, if you're going to put that into a blend, you're going to see that characteristic covered up by some riper grapes that have more standout flavors. Like if your Merlot's super ripe, you add Cabernet Sauvignon to the Merlot to give it a bit more structure, a little bit more longevity, and a little bit more of that power, quote unquote, for lack of a better word, that you see in those kinds of Bordeaux blends. And you're covering up that green bell pepper flavor with that Merlot. So that's the benefits of blending. You're covering up the pitfalls of some varietals with the graces of others. And so it all really depends what you want to have. If you want to have that wine that's going to be complex in its own right, like a Pinot Noir, a lot of people don't really blend Pinot. I've seen it a couple of times in Niagara, and I've seen it a couple of times in Niagara. Yeah, that's about it, actually. So you'll see the Pinot sometimes gets blended away, but it most often gets made into a single varietal wine because people like those complex flavors in it that what can be considered pitfalls to some people, some other people enjoy. And once again, it's that, is this what you want to have? Is this what you're drinking? Is this product geared towards your palate? And that's the best thing that can be said for all of these tasting bars and actually tasting wine is you get to actually try it, see if it is up your alley. You get to go to a winery, taste their Cabernet Sauvignon from a specific vintage, and you'll understand that that area of the world may or may not have gotten their cab ripe. And if they did and you like it, then perfect. If they didn't and you still like it, then perfect. Who cares? You like the wine. Drank it. The On the flip side of the coin, you look at white wines. Now, a lot of white wines aren't very complex unless you oak them, or unless you put them on their skins for a little bit, and then you're kind of playing with, do I want to risk having that tannin that will come from those grape skins into my white wine that I just want to have a little bit of extra flavor put into? That's where blending of white wines can be absolutely essential if you want to add complexity to a white wine without putting oak on it. Gewürztraminer, let's say Chenin Blanc kind of blend with a little bit of Chardonnay would be very aromatic, have intense complexity to it, and about three different tiers of flavor to it that would just actually probably be really tasty. I actually would really want to try that, just to see what it's like. So you can get a lot of different variety that way. And to knock out a couple of ideas as far as the blends, if you look across all of Europe, that's all you really see is blended wine. Bordeaux, 3 different styles of red grapes go into that. Well, you can't really count Burgundy because then you've got the Pinot, but the Côte du Rhône, you're seeing the GSM blend, Grenache, Syrah, Mourvedre, and if you go into Chianti, you've got Chianti's probably made of like 6 different grapes, I think. Sangiovese being the bulk of it, but at the same time, there's a couple of others that they throw in there. Châteauneuf-du-Pape can be up to 16 grape varieties, just kind of like, we'll put 1% this and a little bit of that and a little bit of this and a little bit of, boom, it's perfect. Of all over the world, Spain has some great blends for the Rioja, most often Tempranillo, Syrah, or Grenache, but once again, those 3 grape varieties will come together and they'll make it into something that they make their own. It's just one of those things. So I invite people to not necessarily stick to blends or stick to a single varietal. Once again, this is just open up a little bit of education to the idea of what do I prefer and why do I prefer it. Finding out what you like is the best way to learning how to enjoy it. And I think that's kind of what this month has been about. This first month has just been learning how to enjoy wine and learning why we enjoy it as the person we are, a little bit more than those kind of technical nitty-gritty details. Yeah, there was a little bit of that, but it's not necessarily going to be, it hasn't been a month where I've just been spewing stuff at you. I think next month, and that brings me to this point of the video, next month I am going to be focusing on the idea of oak specifically. I think I'm going to be looking at oak a little bit more in detail. We'll probably start off with oaking whites, oaking reds, and what kind of happens with that and why it's done for as long as it is sometimes. And maybe with that we'll go into, it would be kind of a half and half month, oak and secondary fermentations. So we'll do that, and I can't wait to talk to you again. Have yourself a great day and enjoy the week.